How's it going, everybody? Larry here with the Farmstead Way. I'm out here enjoying a Camacho Triple Maduro and some Woodford Reserve, enjoying this fine evening on Father's Day. It's been a crazy week. Work was crazy this week, and we also had a death in the family. My father-in-law's father passed away, so we've been going through all of his stuff. And I don't know, it's a giant loss. He was a really, really good man. Back in his day, gosh, he was a beast. He used to be a sheriff, carrying a giant pig iron 357 Magnum service revolver. Big old man. And he just passed away, and I'm really gonna miss him. So we've been going through his stuff and getting stuff ready for the funeral. If you noticed, I got a new hat. So we were going through some of his stuff the other day, and my father-in-law had a cowboy hat from when he went to auctioneering school stashed away in the closets, and I was like, hey, can I have that? I'd like to upgrade my hat. So I took it and reshaped it, and yes, I made it look like Dwayne from Dry Creek Wrangler School's hat, but it's a good shape, and I really like it. And just sitting here on Father's Day reflecting on what it means to be a father to me, and thinking about my father and his father and other father figures in my life. Now I'm 30 years old and I have 2 children, so I'm still a very new father. And there's a lot to figure out when you're a new dad. Going from no kids to having a child is such a giant change, because you go from being responsible only for yourself to having this tiny little person that you're in charge of their life, in charge of their well-being, and it's terrifying. And then you get another child, and now you have to keep child A okay, and then make sure child B doesn't do something stupid and get themselves hurt. And it's crazy keeping up with them. But looking back on my life, it's just crazy to think how far I've come from being the single 20-something-year-old guy I was 8-9 years ago to being the dad of 2 children and married than I am now. And I would not change it for anything. And that's something I want to tell to you, my younger viewers, if there are any. If you're single, or if you are freshly married and you don't have any kids, and someone tells you that, having children is the end of your freedom, they're full of it. It's not the end of your freedom. It's the end of certain freedoms, and it's the opening to some of the greatest blessings that you'll ever have in your life. There's no greater joy than coming home from work and looking out that and looking into the window of the house and seeing a son and daughter smiling ear to ear, waving at you, saying, "Hi, Daddy," and then running to the door and giving you a giant hug. It's just, the feeling is like nothing else. And I just hate that we live in a culture that's so afraid of parenthood, that's so afraid of the responsibility and duty of rearing children. It's such a blessing. And on this Father's Day, I'm really thinking about the effect that I'm going to have on my kids and my grandkids, my great-grandkids. Because when you become a dad, you've got to be legacy-minded. You have to be. My dad was a really good dad. He was always there for us. He didn't abuse us. He taught us a lot of good lessons. But there was a lot of things that he didn't do because he didn't have a dad in his life. His parents were divorced. And that kind of handicapped my dad a little bit in being the best dad that he could be for us. He did a very, very good job, but he just didn't know how to be a dad. It's not his fault. So, because of mistakes my granddad made back in like the 60s, affected my dad, which affected me. And now I'm trying to take all the faults that are in my life and not try to impute them onto my children. So that way when my grandchildren grow up, they don't have horror stories of divorced parents and fights and all the stuff that seem to happen in so many families, especially back in that day for some odd reason. I don't know what happens now, but so much divorce and betrayal and lies and drugs and alcohol. It's just horrible. And yes, like I said, I'm drinking alcohol, but this is meant to be enjoyed responsibly. That's why they always say that on the bottle. Whenever I pour me some whiskey, I always think of the craftsman that worked really hard to get a specific flavor, a specific color, a specific smell. And you take time and you sip whiskey. And you think of this uniquely American spirit. But it also, just like being a dad, this has immense power both ways. This brown liquid can produce great good or great evil. Just like a great dad can produce great good or great evil. You as a parent are in charge of the well-being and the destiny of at least 3 to 4 generations after you. And I see it everywhere. You have a crappy granddad that affects kids, or that affects parents. They become crappy parents, and those affect grandkids. Those grandkids get messed up, and they affect the great-grandkids. And the cycle continues until someone's got a head enough on their shoulders to fix a problem. And I'm doing my best to fix the problems that my granddad made. I do not want my kids to grow up in a divorced home. I do not want my kids or my grandkids to grow up with fighting or all that stuff. Because like I said in my last video, second to last video, I've only been married to one woman. I've only ever had sex with one woman. I've only ever loved one woman. And it's the woman that has the other ring. So when my kids grow up, they're going to have that as a role model. Maybe you shouldn't have intimate relationships with boyfriends. That's not what your mom and I did. Your mom and I both waited for marriage for the right people. And maybe instead of having generations of infidelity, we can have generations of purity. Because there's nothing wrong with sex. It's just when it's misused, it gets abused. And then people suffer. They do. And I know people have commented on here, and trust me, they do suffer. This is a great cigar. It's nice to have a cigar that does not have a tight draw. I guess when you get these 60 gauge cigars, there's just a lot of room for breath, and I love the triple Maduro. I just love Maduros in general. I love the rich, dark flavor, and I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to nicotine hits. Like some of the cigars that seem to take me out, nicotine-wise, are always Connecticut's. Because although the flavor's not as strong, it's got pretty hot nicotine in it. But then that doesn't make sense because my favorite cigar is the cane nub straight Ligeros, which Ligero is like the strongest tobacco leaf on the plant. So I don't get it, whatever. And then I like dark coffee, so whatever, it all goes together. And then also with being a dad, I need to give thanks and praise to the woman that made me a dad and a father. My wife. And that's the greatest gift that she's ever given me, is the ability to be a father to children. And that's such a huge responsibility. And there's so many men that are willing to take the first step into have a woman's body, but not take what a woman's body gives back when you have one. Break that one down for you. Because if you're going to be man enough to have that relationship with a woman, you need to be man enough to deal with the responsibility and the consequences of those kind of actions. Don't be sleeping around if you ain't planning on taking care of kids. And that's one of the greatest blessings too, is when my wife came to me and said, I'm pregnant. It's just like, praise Jesus. Thank you for the blessings of children that you've bestowed upon me. Instead of being like, oh God, I got a girl pregnant. Oh no. You know, when you're married and you have sex, that doesn't happen. You're just like, well, making the family bigger. That's one more Bevan to add on the list. And my generation has seemed to have lost that for some odd reason. We have so many people that are in their 20s and 30s that are willing to sleep around, but they don't want to stick around, if you know what I'm saying. The cigar is starting to burn uneven. Let's kind of even this up. So something I want you to do as a dad, or as a future dad, or potential dad, or people thinking about becoming dads. Think through what kind of a parent you want to be. Take a step back and think about how you're going to be as a parent. Think about what your parents did that you don't want to do to your kids. Think about the mistakes that you've made as a man, and think about how you can avoid or keep your kids from making the same mistakes. Think through things. Don't just act and then just be totally oblivious as to, well, I didn't know. Yeah, you knew. You just didn't want to take the time to think about it. That's why this stuff is so nice, because you get to sit by yourself and think about what you did wrong and take accountability for yourself. So on this Father's Day, I'm going to draw this video to a close, so I'm getting all fired up and I want to enjoy this. And I need to watch the children while my wife and mother-in-law make Father's Day dinner for us. So coming to a close, just realize that being a dad is the greatest responsibility, gift, and privilege that a man can do. Because anyone can father children. Not everybody can be dad. So, do you want to be the father of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids and not have a single one of them be excited to call you daddy when you come home from work? Or you want to have 6, 7, 8, 9 kids that love you and actually want to be like you? Yeah. It just ticks me off sometimes. Love your family, love your children, and tell them that you love them. Hope everyone enjoys this fine Thanksgiving. This fine Father's Day. It is not Thanksgiving. Looking forward to Thanksgiving, but we just got to summer and I froze my butt off outside at work for the past 8 months. So I'm looking forward to some nice weather. So on this Father's Day, thank your wife, kiss your kids, and give thanks to the good Lord above for the blessings that he's given you, and ask him for all the grace that he can give you to being the best dad you can be, because this world needs better dads. This world needs you to be a better dad. Catch y'all next time. Have a good day.